I'm not writing this to warn you. I'm writing this because silence has weight, and after 3 years, it's crushing me. The police have filed this away. The case is technically cold. My neighbors rebuilt their fences. New families moved in. Fireworks still explode every New Year's Eve like nothing ever happened. But I remember everything, because I'm the only one left. My name is Chris. I'm 22 years old now. 3 years ago, my entire family was murdered inside our own home. Not by a gun, not by a knife, not by an accident. They were burned alive by a man who planned it carefully and walked away smiling. We lived in a quiet suburb in Ohio, the kind of place where nothing ever happens and people leave their doors unlocked during the day. My dad was an accountant. My mom taught third grade at an elementary school 5 minutes away. I was home from college for winter break, halfway through my freshman year. And my little sister Karen was 5 years old. She was the center of the house. Everything revolved around her energy. She woke up singing, went to sleep asking questions, and believed with her whole heart that holidays were magic, especially New Year's Eve. That year, my dad decided to do something different. Usually, we just watch the ball drop on TV. Cheap snacks, soda, everyone in pajamas. But this year, since I was home and Karen was finally old enough to stay up late, my dad wanted to make it unforgettable. So he drove across the state line. He came back that afternoon with 3 massive boxes of professional-grade fireworks, mortars, Roman candles, finale boxes that fired 30 shots in rapid succession. Stuff that looked like it belonged at a city-sponsored show, not a suburban backyard. He was grinning like a kid unloading them. My mom wasn't thrilled. She didn't like the idea of that much gunpowder in the house, so she told him to store everything in the basement. Our basement was unfinished, bare concrete floors and walls, dry, cool, and far from any living space. Dad stacked the boxes in the corner near the storage shelves and covered them with a tarp. That was 4 days before New Year's Eve. The first sign something was wrong came almost immediately. It was her dog, Dazzy. Dazzy was a golden retriever. Big, clumsy, friendly to the point of stupidity. He loved everyone. He rarely barked unless the mailman walked up the driveway. But the night after the fireworks went into the basement, Dazzy changed. We were in the living room watching a movie when he started pacing. Back and forth, back and forth. He wouldn't lie down. Every few minutes, he stopped in front of the hallway that led to the basement door and let out this low, uneasy whine. Dad tossed a pillow at him jokingly. "Knock it off, Dazzy. Relax." He didn't relax. He walked right up to the basement door and started scratching at it. Not gently. Not like he wanted to go outside. It was frantic. He shoved his nose into the crack at the bottom of the door and sniffed hard. Then he barked. It wasn't playful. It was sharp, aggressive, a sound I'd never heard from him before. "Probably mice," my mom said. "It's getting cold. They're looking for warmth." We'd had field mice before. It made sense. Dad grabbed a flashlight and went down to check. He was gone maybe 5 minutes. When he came back up, he shrugged. "Nothing down there. Set a couple traps, just in case. Fireworks are fine." But Dazzy didn't stop. For the next 2 days, he refused to sleep in my parents' room like he always had. He slept in the hallway, facing the basement door, growling in his sleep. We got annoyed with him. I yelled at him once because I was studying and he wouldn't stop pacing. I regret that every day, because he was the only one who knew. The day before New Year's Eve, December 30th, I made plans to go skiing with friends at a cabin a few hours away. I packed my bag and said goodbye around 4 in the afternoon. Karen hugged my legs. "You're going to miss the big boom," she said. "I'll see the pictures," I told her. Dad was in the kitchen making chili. "Drive safe, Chris," he said. "Text us when you get there." That was the last time I ever spoke to them. Cell service at the cabin was terrible. I sent one text saying I made it, then turned my phone off to save battery. We stayed up late playing cards. I went to sleep around 2 a.m. I woke up to my friend shaking me. His face was white. "Chris," he said, "the police are on the phone." I knew before he finished speaking. The officer confirmed my name, then told me I needed to come home immediately. He wouldn't explain. He just said there had been a catastrophic incident at my address. I drove home at 90 miles an hour. When I reached my street, I couldn't even get close. Fire trucks, police cruisers, yellow tape. I ran. A cop tried to stop me. I screamed that I lived there. I stopped when I saw the house. There was no house. It wasn't burned. It was flattened. The roof had collapsed into the basement. The walls were black skeletons jutting out of a pile of smoking ash. Heat still radiated from the debris. I dropped to my knees in the snow. Nobody survives that. The fire started around 3 a.m. Neighbors reported a massive explosion that shook the ground, followed by rapid secondary blasts, the fireworks detonating. The temperature inside reached over 2,000 degrees in seconds. They found my family in their beds. They never made it to the hallway. At first, everyone said it was an accident. Then the detectives called me in. Detective Miller looked sick when he spoke. It wasn't an accident, he said. He showed me the video. A masked man, a broken basement window, a flare, a wave at the camera, and then my house ignited. He watched it burn. He laughed. 3 years later, the lot is empty. And last week, I think I saw him again. He waved at a gas station camera and laughed. Christmas of 2016 is burned into my memory in a way I don't think time will ever soften. My name is Andre. I was 21 years old then, home from Connecticut with my family for the holidays. We were staying at my Uncle Joshua's place in downtown Miami, a sharp contrast to the cold gray winter we were used to back home. Palm trees instead of pine trees. Warm air instead of snow. Neon lights instead of Christmas candles. It felt wrong in a way I couldn't quite explain. The house was packed. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone squeezed into bedrooms and couches. It was loud, chaotic, and full of the kind of forced happiness families put on during the holidays. My younger brother Nico and I stuck together most of the time. Nico was 18, freshly confident, freshly reckless, and convinced he was invincible. He had just started growing a beard and thought that made him look older than he really was. Friday night, 2 days before Christmas, Nico leaned over to me while the adults argued about dinner plans. "Let's go out," he said. "We're in Miami. We can't waste this." I hesitated. I wasn't much of a club guy, but I knew how badly Nico wanted to experience Miami nightlife. He had a fake ID, one that fooled gas stations and small bars back home, and he'd been bragging about it for months. "Just for a bit," he said. "Christmas-themed stuff. It'll be fun." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We took an Uber to Miami Beach, music blasting, windows down, humid air rushing in. The city was alive, traffic everywhere, people laughing, neon lights reflecting off wet pavement. Our first stop was a popular club hosting a Christmas Eve event. Santa hats, fake snow machines, people dressed in red and green like it was Halloween for adults. We stood in line for almost 20 minutes before the bouncer looked at Nico's ID and barely glanced at mine. $100 each, he said flatly. Nico protested. The bouncer leaned in closer, eyes narrowing. "This ID is fake," he said. "Get out of line." That killed the mood immediately. We walked down the street in silence until Nico spotted a smaller bar. Less flashy, more crowded, cheaper. We got in without issue. Christmas decorations hung crookedly from a ceiling. A cheap plastic wreath sat behind the bar. We ordered drinks and tried to shake off the disappointment. That's when I noticed her. She sat 2 stools down from Nico, legs crossed, wearing a blue Santa hat instead of the usual red. She had to be mid-40s at least, maybe older, but she dressed younger. Tight jeans, a Christmas sweater that clung too closely, lipstick a little too bright. She kept glancing at Nico. Then she started talking to him. At first it seemed harmless, small talk, jokes, laughing a little too loudly. But as the drinks kept coming, her tone shifted. She leaned closer, touched his arm when she laughed, tilted her head in a way that made my skin crawl. I overheard pieces of their conversation. "I love accents," she said. "You're so young," she whispered. "I've always had a thing for boys like you." I shot Nico a look. He grinned back at me like he'd won the lottery. I didn't interfere. That's one of the biggest regrets of my life. They talked for nearly an hour. I ended up chatting with a couple guys next to me just to pass the time. I kept glancing over, uneasy, but Nico seemed fine, too confident to see the warning signs. Eventually, Nico tapped my shoulder. "I'm gonna head out with her," he said casually. I raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "She's cool," he said. "She called us a ride." I watched them leave together, her hand resting possessively on his back. I stayed another 10 minutes, then decided to head back to my uncle's place. I assumed Nico would crash wherever he ended up. The Uber ride home was quiet. The city lights blurred past the windows. I was halfway through scrolling my phone when it rang. Nico. I answered. All I heard was static. At first, I thought it was a pocket dial. Then I heard a voice in the background. It wasn't Nico's. It was a deep male voice, low and rough, speaking too close to the phone. Then another voice joined in, laughing. Nico. I said. Nico, you there? No response. The call ended. My heart started racing. I called it back immediately. Straight to voicemail. Again. On the 10th try, someone picked up. It wasn't my brother. Hello. I said cautiously. A man answered. His voice was older, calm, almost bored. Found this phone on the sidewalk, he said. Relief flooded me for half a second. Okay, I said quickly. Can you meet me somewhere? Or drop it off? I can. He didn't respond. I heard muffled talking in the background. Then screaming. Nico's voice. My name. Andre. Andre, help me. The line went dead. I told the Uber driver to pull over. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone. I called my parents. No answer. My uncle. No answer. Everyone was asleep. The driver watched me panic and told me flatly, you need to call the police. So I did. Police arrived at my uncle's house within minutes. Flashing lights lit up the living room as I woke everyone up, explaining through tears that Nico was in trouble. I described the woman in the blue Santa hat as best I could. The bar, the time, everything. My dad and I rode with the police back to the bar. Officers pulled security footage. There she was, smiling, watching Nico. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. It was Nico. He was gasping for air, barely able to speak. They took me, he said. I got out. I ran. He was using a stranger's phone. He gave us a location in North Miami, a dark, unfamiliar street. When we found him, he didn't look like my brother. His face was swollen. Blood dried under his nose. Both eyes were blackened. His clothes were torn. His wallet, phone, keys, everything was gone. In the car, he told us what happened. The woman walked him into a quiet alley where a car waited. She said it was their Uber. As soon as he got inside, two men grabbed him. One pressed something cold against his ribs and told him to stay quiet or they'd shoot him. They drove for what felt like forever. One of the men called my number and threatened Nico when he tried to scream. That's when they hit him. Eventually, the car slowed. Nico wasn't being held down anymore. So he ran. They didn't chase him, because they didn't need to. He was supposed to disappear. Police never found the woman. She vanished. Christmas was ruined. We were just grateful Nico was alive. But the horror didn't end there. On Christmas night, hours after we finally went to bed, Nico woke the entire house screaming. She's in the house, he yelled. I ran into his room and shook him awake. He was soaked in sweat, eyes wild with terror. It was just a nightmare. But as I stood there, heart pounding, I couldn't stop thinking about her smile and how easily she blended into the crowd. A few years ago, my brother George and I bought a small house together. It wasn't anything special. 2 stories, a modest backyard, and woods stretching out behind the property like a dark wall. It was affordable, close enough to our jobs, and far enough from the city that nights were quiet. Too quiet sometimes. That first year, we decided to host Christmas. Not because we were great hosts, but because it felt like something adults were supposed to do, invite the family over, cook a big meal, prove we were responsible enough to own a house. Our family isn't huge. That year it was just me, George, our parents, our aunt and uncle, one cousin, my sister, her husband, and their 2 kids. My sister arrived first to help cook. She brought her dog, Mika, a medium-sized mutt with sharp ears and a protective streak. Mika was well-trained but always alert, the kind of dog that noticed things before people did. Dinner went smoothly, too smoothly. At one point, conversation drifted toward the recent murders in our county. Several bodies had been found dumped in wooded areas not far from where we lived. It was all over local news. My mom shut it down fast. It's Christmas, she said. Not tonight. We poured more wine, put on a Christmas movie, and pretended everything was normal. Eventually, people started leaving. Hugs, goodbyes, promises to text when they got home. By midnight, only my brother, my sister's family, my girlfriend, and I were left. The kids went to bed. We stayed up longer, drinking wine and laughing softly, trying not to wake them. Sometime after 2 a.m., my girlfriend shook me awake. "Chet," she whispered. "Listen." The room was dark. At first, I heard nothing. Then I heard it. A low growl. "Mika." I sat up slowly, heart already racing. Mika wasn't a dog that growled without reason. I stepped into the hallway. Cold air hit my face immediately. The back door was wide open. Snow dusted the floor near the entrance, blown in by the wind. Mika stood at the threshold, stiff, ears pinned forward, staring into the darkness beyond the deck. "Did you let her out?" I whispered to my girlfriend. She shook her head. I stepped closer to the door, peering outside. The yard was dimly lit by a single floodlight. Beyond that, the woods swallowed everything. Then I heard it. Chet, my brother's voice. It came from the trees. Clear, calm, familiar. "George," I called back. "What are you doing out there?" No answer. I went back into the bedroom and started pulling on my boots and jacket. "George is out back," I said. "He might need help." My girlfriend hesitated. "That doesn't feel right." I ignored the feeling in my gut. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The snow was fresh, just enough to see footprints leading from the deck toward the woods. I followed them. "George," I called. "Chet," his voice answered. Same distance, same tone. I moved deeper into the trees. The footprints started to fade, then disappear entirely. "Where are you?" I shouted. "What's wrong?" Chet, again, unmoving, unchanging. The woods were silent. No wind, no animals, not even the sound of snow shifting under my boots. I stopped walking. That's when my phone rang. It was my girlfriend. "Chet," she said, her voice shaking. "George is in his bedroom. He's right here." My blood turned cold. "What?" I whispered. "He never left," she said. I checked. "Your sister's husband is still asleep too. No one's outside." I turned slowly, scanning the trees. Every shadow suddenly felt closer. "Chet," the voice came again, right behind me. I ran. I didn't look back. Branches snapped. My breath burned. My flashlight bounced wildly as I sprinted toward the faint glow of the house. I didn't stop until I burst through the back door, slamming it shut behind me. Everyone was awake. Mika barked relentlessly at the door. George stared at me, pale. "I never went outside," he said. "I was asleep." I told him everything. The voice, the footprints, the way it knew my name. We stood there arguing for nearly 30 minutes about whether to call the police. Eventually, we did. An officer came. He walked the yard, the woods, asked if anything was missing. Nothing was. He told us to call again if anything else happened and left. Nothing else ever did. But I don't go into those woods anymore, because whatever was out there that night didn't want my brother. It wanted me.